All right, so this morning we talked about the play Oedipus the King and how the drama is really about watching the consequences of actions sort of play themselves out over time, right? And that he thinks he knows some things that he doesn't know, and we know what he doesn't know, and we're sort of watching him gradually come to these realizations about himself and about the world. And the drama is sort of making us squirm at the concept of how could anybody end up in a situation where they actually have killed their father and married their mother and had children with their own mother. And he thinks he's got it all down, but he doesn't. And we talked about images of blindness and sight. We talked about some of the ironies that are embedded in this play. And for this little discussion here now, the second session of the day, I asked you to read a short article about the play Oedipus the King that's published right here in our book, and to think about what it has to say about the play. And I've broken you up into groups, and each group has a little passage from the essay that I've asked you to think about and find some passages or one passage from the play to illustrate what that point is. And now we're going to go through the groups and call on you to bring up your ideas. Sound good? Okay. Well, now.
All right. We had the passage to analyze from, it's the last passage of Oedipus, and it reads, "Men of Thebes, look at the king who ruled your country. There is Oedipus. He knew how to answer the mystery of evil in the Sphinx, and was our greatest lord. We saw him move the world with his will, and we envied him. But look, the storm destroys him. The sea has come to defeat him. Remember that death alone can end all suffering. Go towards death, and ask for no greater happiness than a life in which there has been no anger and no pain." And the audience, as he says in the article, is kind of divided on whether this is a message of comfort or despair. And from what we kind of discussed, there seems to be kind of a mix of both. It is kind of despair because if you think of Oedipus and his plight, it's he's in a lot of pain, a lot of anguish. And as we discussed earlier in class, he gouges out his eyes, and that's kind of trying to escape the final punishment that death will bring. But in the same way, it's comfort for everyone else, because you're supposed to learn from Oedipus's lesson, in a way. Oedipus has taught you stabbing your eyes out is not the answer. So pretty much, yeah, death would be it's a message of comfort, almost in a way, in the end, even coming from despair.
We decided to discuss the first, well, not really the first, but one of the long monologues that Oedipus has at the beginning. It's on page 193. Kind of towards the middle, he starts in talking about the consequences that are going to befall the murderer that's caused this plague to fall upon his city. And he starts in saying, "This murderer, no matter who he is banished from the country where my power and my throne are supreme. No one must shelter him or speak to him. When you pray to heaven, he must not pray with you. When you sacrifice, drive him away. Do not give him holy water. Beat him from your doors. He carries the taint of corruption with him, for so the god Apollo has revealed to me. You see how I serve the god and revenge the king who dies. I curse that murderer. If he is alone, I curse him. If he shares his guilt with others, I curse him. May his evil heart beat out its years in sorrow. Throughout his life, may he breathe the air of death. If I give him shelter, knowing who he is, and let him feel the warmth of my fire, I ask this punishment for myself. This must be done. In every word I speak, I command obedience, and so does the god Apollo, and so does your country, which a barren sickness and an angry heaven drag to death." So he's basically set himself up for his own punishment in that long monologue there. And in saying all of this, the audience already knows what the outcome of this play is going to be. They already know. And for them, it's this huge dramatic irony, because they're like, "Ha ha ha, Oedipus, you've just condemned yourself, man." Which relates back to how the passage that we read for this afternoon, it says that for Oedipus, the future is obliterated by the past and plunges into darkness. So by condemning himself in this first long speech, he's set himself up for everything that comes later. His future is already determined within the first few pages of the play.